Welcome to Something Funny, the podcast where two funny guys talk about their unpolished comedic observations, bits, and wacky premises. If you ever find yourself saying there's something funny about this, but I can't put my finger on it, this is the podcast for you. I'm Eric, and this is my lovely co-host Bill. How you doing today, Bill?
Hi, everybody. I'm fine, thank you.
Oh, I see you slept on your balls again.
No,
You know, I often hear from people that they slept wrong, and it's common to sleep on your arm wrong and you get tingles. I have never once slept on my balls wrong. Isn't that kind of interesting? You never wake up with a tingly ball from having it cramped in the wrong way?
well, I don't think many people have 6-inch sacks that would be tucked under anything.
Not like low-hanging Eric.
I guess.
Anyway, so the topic for today is when you hear about a celebrity dying of autoerotic asphyxiation. They get found, hanging from their closet bar or from a rafter, and they've been getting off.
Kids, leave the room. This is not for you. 6-inch sack comment. That's probably, maybe this is not for kids. I was wondering what you'd do if I gave you no energy, and if you'd run with it, or if you'd just be stymied by it.
So, anyway, today's Something Funny podcast topic is autoerotic asphyxiation. If you don't know what it is, then...
If you don't know what it is, maybe it's best that you don't learn. People have died from it, so maybe by leaving now, you've saved yourself. So,
well, to also throw it in, probably a lot of people haven't died from it, too.
Probably, I guess.
The successful ones.
But right now, you're in a masturbation bracket where you're comfortable and you're happy, and you're like, it doesn't get much better than this. But then all of a sudden, you find out about autoerotic asphyxiation, and you're like, what? I can improve on my masturbation? Okay, I'm going to listen to this, right? But you might also die.
How can you do it? Find out after a word from our sponsors.
All right.
So, the topic today is autoerotic asphyxiation, and this is from an observation Bill had over the summer. It's a great observation, and without further ado, I'm going to let him get into his thought process here.
All right. So, autoerotic asphyxiation. It is the act of choking yourself, depriving yourself of oxygen while you are masturbating. This makes the orgasm very, very pleasurable and intense, more so than regular. And I guess sometimes people choke themselves too much and then they end up dying. Now, there's celebrities that have died, athletes that have died.
All of your friends are doing it.
Not that I know of, but thanks for sharing, Eric.
Well, actually, one thing I think is really interesting about this is we only hear about the ones who do it poorly, right?
Yes.
As far as you know, everyone's doing it, and they're doing it just the right amount and not overdoing it.
Yeah.
So originally, your observation was about David Carradine. He's one of these celebrities.
So I was going to get to that. I was explaining. Then you're like, "Oh, just let me get into my point." So yeah, I had to explain what our autoerotic asphyxiation is. I can't just talk about it. It was like, "Oh yeah, David Carradine died from that." Oh, what?
We got to be careful in case his widow is listening. We got to make sure we're not being insensitive to the Carradine clan, right?
Yes.
I understand. There's some tact needed here, Bill. I'm sorry for stepping on your toes.
No. There's some information that people need to know before you can get into it, because you have to explain what autoerotic asphyxiation is. You have to explain that people die from it, how they die, choke themselves too much, end up choking themselves to death. And it's well known. Now, my point being is, you know this. I think pretty much everyone knows about autoerotic asphyxiation. They know that you can die, yet people continue to do it. It's like, what? the risk of dying is not great enough to stop themselves from just going for the old mom and pop regular masturbation. They have to go for the I gotta grab a belt or a tie and choke myself masturbation in order to really pull things off. Like, yeah, pun intended. Um, it's yeah.
But what I find really funny is the discovery of it. Because I would never think to try this if I hadn't heard of it. And I guess I'll say I haven't tried it yet. I mean, I might end up trying it at some point. I think if I was on death row and I'm like on my way out anyway, I'm the try it once kind of guy anyway. So if I was like, the risk is huge, but if you're on your way out anyway, I might give this a try, but not yet.
Do you think that they remove belts and ties on death row because they're worried about the death row inmates committing suicide? Or they're like, hey, this saves me a job later on. I guess get a longer break. Like,
probably a lot of paperwork, though. So, the discovery of this, right? I think logically, this is either like the people who work in morgues started realizing that some of these stiffs they bring in have stuff in their pants, or this was like a failed suicide. Or my favorite one to imagine is like an old-timey execution way back when they hung people from the gallows. And it's like, you remember Braveheart? I think, no, they didn't hang him, did they? No. One of those old movies where it's like a public hanging.
No, they chopped off all of his arms and legs and put them on the four corners of London Bridge.
But they didn't show that, though. They showed him being, like, disemboweled, and they didn't, like, show the guts. But anyway, okay, so the public hangings.
They did not show them chopping off Mel Gibson's arms and legs. You just assume it happens.
Yeah, he wasn't up for it. He just wasn't a good sport about it. I mean...
No.
Anyway, okay, so the public hangings, the gallows, right?
You don't need to just, like, paste over the Mel Gibson getting his legs chopped off and stuff like that. We can talk about it. We can go further into this.
I bet he wishes he had a free hand. I mean, from evidence we know that hanging yourself while getting off is great. What about being disemboweled? You know, having your guts pulled out of your cavity? It could be great if you're also, like, on the verge of coming.
You're losing oxygen, so...
So, I like to picture the initial autoerotic discovery of, like, a public hanging in, like, the year 1206, and there are, like, a crowd of peasants, and they're watching, and, they pull the lever, the guy starts dangling, and he gets one hand free, and he realizes, I'm not going to get this noose off, but you know what? My pantaloons, they're perfectly accessible. These fuckers are watching me hang to death. What a badass way to go out. Gotta try to get it on at least 4 of you.
Hear ye. All come around and witness the death of the public masturbator.
That was the capital defense in your history book, huh?
Oh, he's got his hand free. Is he going to try to stop himself? Nope, he's at it again.
Nope. Well, I like the idea. So he would know as he was doing it and dying how good it would feel, but the people who are watching wouldn't necessarily know that it's mind-changing unless he's like the only corpse they've ever seen with just like an ear-to-ear grin. You know, because they often did it in groups, right? If they're hanging like 12 public masturbators. Oh, that's the worst club we've ever had in this town. Let's get rid of them all at once, okay?
Just looking at them all, it's like, oh, this guy's sad. This one's sad. Look how happy he is. He's stiff all over and stiff in his pants. I think I figured it out. I'm going to try this tonight.
So it's either like you find it out after based on the body, like morgue workers. It's like someone tries to kill themselves and maybe like... I don't know, like maybe the person who is really depressed tries to hang themselves, but they had second thoughts, so they had a knife in their pocket just in case, and wouldn't you know it, they dropped the knife, but then they like...
So you don't think that it was some person studying orgasm and just writing papers and trying to figure things out, like, I wonder if I use my left hand, if it's a different type of orgasm. Okay, now if I tie a belt around my neck, let's see what an orgasm's like this way. Whoa, it's amazing, right? And just from maybe studying rats, masturbating rats.
Well, do you know the Kinsey study?
No, I don't know what that is.
I think it was Alfred Kinsey in the 60s. They did the first formal, like, sexology studies. And that was really the first time, apparently, that it had been scientifically studied, sexuality in general. And
Yes, not the artsy Kama Sutra, right? So artsy with all their paintings.
Well, I gotta think that you gotta be pretty scientific to stumble upon the hanging aspect, right? Like the Kama Sutra, I've looked at it. It's just a bunch of paintings of odd positions, right? I've never seen, like, okay, if this was that old, that, like, I don't think there are any pictures in the pyramids of, a guy choking himself or something, right? I think it's probably pretty modern. I mean, it might be from way back.
You think it's modern, and then you're like, you see all these cave pictures, you start doing this anthropological study, and you're like, it's in India, it's in Africa.
Wait, no, this is what happened to the Neanderthals. The Neanderthals were bigger than us and stronger than us, and their brains were physically bigger, but they're not here anymore.
Yeah. You read a paper from Jane Goodall. It's like, oh my God, the silverback is getting choked while he masturbates. What?
Well, first of all, getting choked by another person is a little different, right? That is not autoerotic. That is like buddy erotic. But yeah, there's a demand for that too.
I guess
the choking thing in general. Okay, it's either buddy choking or choking yourself, but it still takes a certain mindset to say, I'm going to add this to that. This is more creative than peanut butter and chocolate together.
That's what it was. It wasn't human on human. Somebody was caught by a boa constrictor.
I was thinking that too.
Was choking their neck. And they're like, I can't get this snake off me. I'm definitely dead. But you know what? Masturbation time. Started to masturbate and was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And then somebody saw that happen just before the snake came.
So silky smooth.
Yeah.
So how they discovered it is one thing, but I like to think about like the situation where the word had to get out, right? Like if I discovered this while, I don't know, I'm vacuuming my stairs and the cord wraps around my neck and I trip and somehow I'm like, might as well give it a try. And then I come and then I survive. I tell people. I mean, if you came across a dead body where they're hanging and you saw that their pants were down and there's like a splooge on the floor, would you think to yourself, I got to give that a try?
No, I would not. But if you're actually asking me, no. But that very first person, the person that found it, must have been super convincing or just would not stop about it. And be like, you gotta try this.
Yeah, the word's gotta get out, right?
Who's going to be like, listen, you masturbate, I masturbate. We've talked about this before. And then they're like,
Dad?
Guess what? Dad, yeah. But you can make it way better, Dad. Way better.
Ever since Mom left. We nearly escaped that village that was going to hang us. You and me, Dad. We've been through a lot together, Dad.
I can't even understand you.
Sorry, I said, you and me, Dad, we've been together through a lot. That time in the Amazon with the snakes. We nearly escaped those headhunters, Dad. But I got news for you. Sorry, Bill, I totally jumped on that.
Yes. But he would have had to been super convincing. And just because if you didn't know about this, and someone was trying to be like first-hand knowledge on it and say, listen, you got to choke yourself when you masturbate. Why would I do that, son? And then they choke themselves and they're like, wow, it is amazing. So now once became two become four become eight, and then it passes through the world. So it either is really amazing or someone's like, you know what? Now that I've tried it, I got to spread the word.
I'm amazed that it would even come up, because you got to be pretty close to someone to broach that subject. I was thinking a little bit about like the what's the word? The priest. A Catholic priest had to be celibate. Do you think that means they can't masturbate? I mean, in the rules, do you think that's allowed as a little like asterisk? They have to be celibate, the proper Catholic ones, right? Not these modern like reformed priests. I'm just thinking like, who would you spend enough time with where you're experimenting sexually and you got someone you can talk to about it and you feel comfortable? You feel comfortable because you're close, or you just got nothing else to do? Like you're living in a monastery in like the year 1200, like it doesn't come up a lot in conversation, How is your masturbation life? You got any good tricks that I should try? Buddy, let me tell you.
Well, it probably came up a lot more when there's no TV, that's for sure.
Yeah, I suppose. Is this like pre-TV around the campfire kind of thing? How was the hunt? Oh, it was great. Except that goddamn anaconda. But buddy, I got something to tell you. Someone's got to tell someone, right? The unsuccessful one who dies doing it, they're not telling anyone, and the people who discover them probably aren't saying, oh, that guy had a great final idea. It's probably the guy who did it, survived it, and told someone.
Told a bunch of people because they'd be so excited and wanting. They would be one person, but I think that person would have been so exciting. It's sort of like investing, right? And someone invests in like a small little computer shop called Apple, and they're like, it's penny stocks, and they're just like, I invested this much, and now I'm making this much money. You should do it too. It's really, really good. And they keep...
Word on the street is Bill's got a hot tip.
Yeah. A real hot.
You see that grinning fella over there?
Real hot tip.
He's got a great evening ritual he does every night. Boy, how do I get in on this? You get yourself a belt. You mean like this one here? Yeah, that'll do it. Sorry, Bill.
No, that's good. That's good.
Bill, how'd you get so wealthy? Well, you know how coal is an excellent fuel? You know what's even better? Handkerchiefs dripped in cum that are dried out. I realized I had like a pile of gold under my mattress one day. So, with the investing, okay, the word gets out only because I want you to buy in too to raise the stock prices, right? I want the IBM stock to go up.
No, I wouldn't tell people to invest just so that it raised the stock prices, because I would want them to get what I'm getting, right?
So you're only telling the people you like then?
Oh, for sure. For sure. I'm not telling people I don't like, because would you start telling people you don't like?
I would tell people I don't like how to get off and feel great by almost killing themselves if I wanted them to actually kill themselves. I might not even try this. I might have made it up, and you're my worst enemy, and I tell you, I had the best time last night. My wife was out of town. She's in the next village. And you know what I tried? That rafter that's exposed in my little villa, I hung myself from it while masturbating. Really?
A little unknown fact is that when Genghis Khan tried to invade Hawaii, the Hawaiians did not have an army, but they're able to spread the rumor of auto-erotic asphyxiation, where it just killed the entire army pretty much instantly overnight with telling them to choke a little bit too long.
Guys, the horde is coming. We're going to retreat. But before we retreat, I want every house to carve on the wall a mural of someone hanging themselves with a giant smile on their face.
They won't be very aggressive either. They will all their aggression will be gone. Very
then
passive.
We retreat, and we keep doing this in waves. Every wave of invaders that comes further, going to be far fewer of them, and they're going to be a lot more tired. So I love the idea that the Mongol horde is invading Hawaii, which is an island. And I'm picturing, hundreds of years ago, they got the binoculars and they're looking at them. How's the horde looking today? Pretty chill. A lot less rage in those little tiny eyes. Great. Now on to phase 3. Now we start leaving anacondas in our house as we retreat in the next phase.
Yes,
those native Hawaiian anacondas.
Yes, yes. But the other thing is actually is those famous people that die from it, right?
Yep.
Someone will be like, oh yeah, he was actually, I saw him yesterday. He was so happy and a pleasure to be around. His hands were silky smooth.
One of them was.
Well, I was surprised when I found out that he committed suicide. I never expected that from him.
Well, you think they would ever be tempted to try to just pass it off as a run-of-the-mill, like, stranger strangling? Someone broke into the house, like, okay, I find a loved one hanging from the rafters, I take them down, I put them in their bed, I break the window from the outside, and I strangle the body with my own hands a little bit to make the burn marks look a little bit more hand-shaped. Then I wipe my prints off of them and I call the police. If you love someone, this is what you would do.
Look, honey, another Hawaiian murder. You don't call it autoerotic asphyxiation anymore. It's too much of a mouthful. Damn, Hawaiian murder again.
It's the Hawaiian sickness. Spreading like crazy. But if you really love someone and you want to protect their legacy, would you take them down from the rafters, throw them on the floor as if there had been a violent struggle, strangle their dead body for a little bit just to get the right finger shapes in there, smash the window from the outside, clean the prints off, and then call the police? Is that too much to ask for someone you love to protect their legacy? So, I have an angle that I think is interesting, and it's just an observation. You never hear about women being found this way.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. Right? Why aren't women trying to choke themselves and masturbate? You know why they're not trying to do that?
Poor engineering skills.
Because, yes, and bad at math. Those two reasons. They can't count.
What are they counting, Bill? What is it they need to count in this situation?
Well, I guess for female orgasm, it takes from 17 minutes to 44 minutes of going at it. 17 to 44. Okay. That's some made up number that I just made up, I think. But
yeah, so the women I've made love to, at about the 15-minute mark, they start checking their watch, and about 2 minutes later, we finish. You don't have this experience, Eric? By the way, I have nerve damage to my penis. It takes me forever. Which is why I haven't tried the autoerotic asphyxiation. I know I can't hold my breath that long. So we don't know why, but women aren't found this way, or their relatives love them enough to post-mortem strangle them and stage a break-in strangling.
Yeah, women's bodies are smaller. It's way easier to move their dead corpse around. So yeah, that's probably why. Way easier to fake.
Sis killed herself.
Another Hawaiian murder.
What do they say? Aloha in Hawaii? What is hello?
Aloha is hello and goodbye. Aloha-micide.
So women don't seem to be found this way, or they're so successful at it that they're never dead, therefore they live, and they're tight-lipped about it.
Yeah, women are just embarrassed about telling their friends that they choke themselves while masturbating, I guess. That's what it comes down to.
I find it kind of interesting. Female sex toys have been around forever. There are cavemen, carved dildos they found. Making the opposite for men is hard to do. You can't really just, use things you find, right? And I was just thinking, if a woman were to do this, would she limit herself to just playing with her clit? There's a lot more options for sex toys for women, right? And you gotta think, if a woman were to try
Did not know.
They have, the rabbit is a vibrator that goes in, but also has a thing for the clit. So they're getting, double action. You got to think, the options that are available to women.
Of course I knew that.
The options that are available, if women thought the way men did, we'd be finding them hanging from their, rafters, on an improvised, repurposed pogo stick. There would be crazy engineered situations where you would be obvious what happened.
So you're saying the reason why you can't find, you don't find a lot of women dead from autoerotic asphyxiation or a Hawaiian suicide or Hawaiian murder, whatever you want to call it, is because they have so many more options, let it be mechanical or electrical, that can pleasure themselves versus the man where all they have is a
Essentially a
banana
hand.
peel that or hand, and because the men lack options, they decided, oh, the only way to improve this is to affect my brain versus having some sort of vibrating, undulating machine that can pleasure themselves.
Well, there's no reason not to mix and match logically. I don't know, like, these things are out there, and I'm just thinking, like, you don't hear of it with women.
No, no. I think you're onto something there. Where, so if they had better fleshlights, um, then autoerotic asphyxiation should fall down to nothing. Nobody would do it anymore, I guess.
No, men would just be doing that too. You'd be finding them hanging themselves from the rafters with either the fleshlight still stuck on or like laying by their feet, dripping. I mean, if it's a big enough orgasm, it would blow across the room. Men wouldn't just say, oh no, one's enough. I never mix and match. I don't have a joint with my beer. I'm not like that. No, it's steak or potatoes for me. I don't have everything on one plate. Men aren't like that. Men would totally be mixing and matching.
Lobsters stuffed with tacos. Perfect. Classic Simpsons. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, the other thing that's interesting, though, is, and I don't know if you've been in this situation. I have once been asked by a girl to choke her during sex, and that is something I would never request myself, and I wasn't putting my whole heart into it. I am not a violent guy, but I'm wondering if women just, like, farm that out, you know? Like, I would, even if I had that in my mind, I wouldn't feel comfortable asking my wife or anyone, you know, by the way, I really like it to get choked.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to say there, Eric? You're going to be like, yes, I was once asked to choke during sex, and I accidentally murdered her because I put all my heart into it, and yeah, she's dead, so I had to bury her in a shallow grave. And I said, never
So
again.
I hung her from the rafters on a repurposed pogo stick. I got the hell out of there. She was easy to pick up and put the noose on with my giant man strength and her petite little body, like a rag doll.
And then I placed a rabbit just below her feet, and the scene was set.
It was a perfect tableau. Fresh flowers on the table just to give a mixed message to the investigators. I bet she had a date.
Damn it, Johnson. I just hate those Hawaiians. Why?
So anyway, it's not a common thing with women to do it to themselves, but it's common enough as a fantasy that women do ask for it during sex, and I've never heard of it being a big thing in the gay world. Perhaps because men are more do-it-yourself, I don't know. It's interesting, like, why is it only dudes who are found hanging from the rafters? Why isn't it women? And you gotta think, if two dudes were choking each other while banging, like, some gay guys are really built, there'd be cops called to, oh, both of them died.
Come over here, Johnson. It's like two snakes swallowing themselves. Look.
It's the most fascinating thing we've ever seen.
You can't see where one begins and one ends. Yeah, that's all I see is just love.
Can you see the giant smiles and deep sense of love in the eyes of both of them?
Cut and dry. Well, I think that's it. I don't think there's anything for me to add to this. Do you have anything else?
No, I'm good, Bill. This has been a lot of fun. Hey, listeners, I kind of feel like there might be a euphemism that hits the ear a little better than Hawaiian homicide. If anything comes to mind, drop it in the comments.
It needs to have like alliteration, so something with choking, strangling. So small country starts with a ch or an s.
Anyway, we hope you really enjoyed this episode. Thanks for tuning in. This is Bill and Eric from Something Funny.